The Royal Connection. Princess Leonor 2025 wedding unite Spain and Denmark. It began like any royal celebration, bells ringing, cameras flashing, hearts waiting. But what unfolded in Copenhagen on that unforgettable day of 2025 wasn't just a royal wedding. It was a union that shook Europe's emotional core. Because while the world watched Princess Leonor of Spain walk down the aisle in radiant elegance, few realized this moment would redefine the bond between two royal houses, and unite Spain and Denmark in ways history never imagined. Princess Leonor's wedding wasn't just about love. It was about legacy, diplomacy, and a new vision for what royalty means in the modern world. For centuries, the Spanish crown stood apart, proud, traditional, and rooted in Catholic ceremony. The Danish monarchy, by contrast, represented Nordic openness and democratic warmth. But on that spring morning, these worlds met, in one dazzling ceremony that became Europe's symbol of unity. Spain's young heir, now 20, walked into history wearing more than a gown. She wore the weight of her country's hopes. From Madrid's grand boulevards to the quiet coasts of Majorca, Spaniards gathered before screens, holding their breath as Leonor stepped into the Danish cathedral. And then, gasps, because the first sight of her revealed not opulence, but meaning. Her dress shimmered softly, made from Spanish silk and Danish lace. Every stitch symbolized harmony between two nations, two cultures, two families, woven into one. For those who followed the royal journey, this day had been years in the making. Since her training at Spain's military academies, Leonor had shown the world that she would not simply inherit a throne, she would reshape it. Her choice to marry in Denmark, the homeland of her future husband, sparked emotion across both kingdoms. For Spaniards, it was pride. For Danes, it was gratitude. For Europe, it was a promise that tradition and progress could coexist gracefully. But before the joy came tension. Behind palace walls, discussions between royal advisors grew intense. Spain's royal household preferred a Madrid ceremony, in the heart of the nation. Denmark's court, on the other hand, envisioned a modern international celebration in Copenhagen, reflecting the couple's shared values. What finally emerged was a compromise, but also a revelation. The two monarchies agreed that this would not be one nation's wedding, but Europe's wedding. And when the day finally arrived, it did not disappoint. The streets of Copenhagen were drenched in color. Danish flags fluttered alongside Spanish ones, a visual symphony of red and white. Crowds lined the palace gates for hours before the ceremony, chanting both, Viva España and Lang leve Kærligheden, long live love. Then came the moment that made global headlines, Leonor's entrance. As the cathedral doors opened, sunlight poured through stained glass, framing her like a vision. She paused for a second, smiling softly, eyes glistening, then took her first step toward a destiny written across centuries. Observers noted how she carried herself, not with the stiffness of royal protocol, but with calm grace. Every movement spoke of strength tempered by humility. And beside her, the groom, Prince Christian of Denmark, stood visibly moved. Their exchange of glances wasn't just affection, it was history unfolding in real time. The ceremony itself combined two royal traditions. The vows were exchanged first in Spanish, then in Danish. The priest invoked the symbols of unity. Water from Spain's Ebro River and Denmark's Gudena blended together and poured over intertwined royal crests, a breathtaking image of two nations merging through love. And just when guests thought they had seen it all, Queen Letizia leaned forward and handed Leonor the same family veil worn by Queen Sofia decades earlier, a quiet gesture that brought tears to the eyes of millions watching around the world. As the couple exchanged rings, the music swelled, not a royal anthem, but a fusion of Spanish guitar and Danish strings. It was emotional, intimate, and revolutionary. It wasn't about monarchy, it was about connection. When they finally said, "Si, te amo," and "Ja, jeg elsker dig," the cathedral erupted in applause. And across both countries, cheers echoed from plazas to living rooms. The world wasn't just witnessing a royal union, it was witnessing the fusion of cultures, the rebirth of royalty for a new generation. But what made this moment even more powerful was how authentic it felt. No staged perfection, no cold formality, just two young royals showing the world that leadership begins with empathy and love. Spain's reaction was overwhelming. Within minutes, the ceremony went viral. Social media lit up with clips of Leonor wiping away a tear as she looked at her parents, of Queen Letitia's proud yet emotional smile, of King Felipe clapping softly from the front pew. Hashtag surged, hashtag royal connection, #Leonor 2025, hashtag two nations one heart. News anchors called it the most emotional royal event of the decade. But behind the emotion lay something deeper. The marriage wasn't just symbolic, it carried real diplomatic weight. Analysts quickly pointed out how it reinforced cultural and economic ties between southern and northern Europe, strengthening a royal bridge between two influential kingdoms. Suddenly, centuries of geographic distance between Madrid and Copenhagen seemed to vanish. And yet, even amid all the celebration, the human moments stole the spotlight. When Leonor's younger sister, Infanta Sofia, reached for her hand during the recessional, viewers were reminded that beneath all the ceremony, this was still a family, imperfect, emotional, and deeply bonded. Later that evening, the royal couple appeared before thousands gathered outside Amalienborg Palace. The crowd roared as they stepped onto the balcony. Leonor waved first, radiant under the Danish sky, then turned to Christian, who gently took her hand. Together, they bowed, first to Denmark, then to Spain, and finally to each other. That simple, synchronized gesture spoke louder than any speech. It was love turned into diplomacy, elegance turned into leadership. Back in Spain, reactions poured in. From the king's palace to neighborhood cafes, people talked of nothing else. "She made us proud," said one elderly woman in Seville. "She showed the world who we are," wrote a student from Zaragoza. News outlets described the union as the most graceful act of European unity since the marriages of the 20th century. And for good reason. This wasn't just about royal bloodlines. It was about showing that even in a world divided by politics and culture, love can still be the most powerful bridge. In the days that followed, documentaries aired, historians reflected, and analysts drew parallels between Leonor's wedding and those that once shaped Europe's destiny. But this time, the story wasn't about alliances of power, it was about connection through choice, not obligation. As the couple began their first public duties together, their chemistry was undeniable. Leonor's calm intellect balanced Christian's approachable charm. Their appearances exuded unity and humility, royalty for a new age. Behind palace walls, both monarchies acknowledged what everyone felt: this wasn't just a wedding. It was a statement of vision. Two young royals had turned what could have been a traditional pageant into a living message, one that resonated from royal halls to ordinary hearts. And when the night ended, and the music faded, one image remained: the newlyweds stepping out of the cathedral, surrounded by rose petals, hand in hand, looking not toward the cameras but toward the horizon. For Spain and Denmark, that horizon now looked shared. For Europe, it looked hopeful. Princess Leonor's 2025 wedding will be remembered not for its luxury but for its symbolism. For its quiet rebellion against formality. For proving that unity is still possible when love leads the way. Because in that moment, under the golden Danish sky, as Spanish cheers echoed through the air, the world didn't just see a royal connection. It saw a promise. A promise that royalty, when led by heart and purpose, can still unite nations. Princess Leonor didn't just marry into Denmark. She married Spain into history. And in doing so, she reminded the world that true elegance lies not in crowns but in connection.